lose my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, live tonight from Richmond Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Taylor Burris. Gary Weaver will be with us in the booth as well, and Cisco Scaramouza, as always, punching buttons in our virtual production trailer, bringing you all the action on your screen from tonight's third round of 7 in this 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. As the road to the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series continues tonight here on the iRacing Esports Network and the iRacing Twitch channel and the iRacing Facebook page. Taylor Burris, I turn to you to start off tonight's broadcast. After our season opener at Daytona, it was Atlanta last week, and a bit of a return to form for our four-time champion of the eNASCAR iRacing Series, Ray Alfalla, who got his first victory of the season at Atlanta 1 week ago. And we now turn to the shortest track on the schedule in this 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, Richmond Raceway, the only short track we'll visit in this series of 7 races. And with the low downforce, high horsepower package these Xfinity cars have, should be a very entertaining race at that.
Most definitely will be. And good evening, everyone. Welcome, of course, to Richmond Raceway. These drivers are going to be just testing the might here tonight as we are closing in towards the halfway point of the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series. These drivers are going to try to give it everything they have left in the tank to continue pushing forward, as the top 20 once again in the point standings is showing a little bit of a gap from that final spot.
The top 20 will advance to the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series at the end of this Pro Series. And right now, Cody Bias is the driver who holds that last spot over 6 points, or over Brian Blackford by 6 points, rather. A little bit tight down at the bottom, though. It's not necessarily a battle that you're going to worry about at this stage. But if you're John Gorlinski, Bob Bryant, and Gorlinski in particular, who was top 5 at Daytona in his win and had a strong run in the top 10 in Atlanta a week ago, you have to be very, very happy with your start. And Bob Bryant had a huge run at Atlanta 1 week ago to vault himself to second in the point standings. Graham Boland's been consistently quick. Jeremy Adams snuck up in there. Alex McCallum was solid after the runner-up finish at Daytona. Santiago Gutierrez was top 10 just about all night. So everybody was finding a nice bit of balance between these first 2 tracks, but it's about here at Richmond where you start really beginning to see who's got the handle on all these different types of race tracks and who the drivers are that we need to watch for and who the drivers are that might really have a shot at making the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series.
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we had some great battles and some surprising drivers who could have a shot at doing quite well. Of course, Ray Alfalla, who has momentum on his side with last week's win, it's always going to be a factor to key into for tonight's race. But also John Gorlinski and Bob Bryant. These 2 drivers have been showing incredible pace and speed all season long. The current drivers up at the top of the point standings. So I'm going to be definitely keeping an eye on those 2 drivers here tonight. Bob Bryant, we interviewed last week after his strong run at Atlanta, said he's not too good at short track racing, has to rely heavily on his crew chief to help him out with getting the right setup, twists and tweaks of the dials to help him be able to master this track to the best of his ability. But I think those 2 would be the ones to watch here tonight as well.
We'll see how it all pans out as we take a look at our great big blue and green earth on our gigantic map to show you where we are in the United States of America. We're in the state capital of one of 3 commonwealths in the United States, Virginia, a commonwealth along with Kentucky and Massachusetts, if you wanted a fun United States trivia fact, but just a little bit to the northeast to city center as well. Hill Fairgrounds campsite. That's originally where this track was built, and originally it was just a standard oval, and then reconfigured in the '90s into the D oval that we know it as today. But always one of the most entertaining tracks on the calendar. Always known for tons of action, regardless of whether or not you're racing the day or night. We'll take a moment to take a quick commercial break and hop on over into the actual race. So we'll see you on the other side of these messages. You're watching coverage of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series here on Podium Esports. Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Richmond Raceway. At this point, it's time to take you through the starting grid and tell you where your favorite driver will begin tonight's race. Cody Bias will start from the pole position, and Colin Keister will join him on the outside of the front row. Graham Boland will start from the third position. Fourth will be where you find Ethan Lane. Alex McCollum, runner-up at Daytona, will start from the fifth position. Sixth belongs to the O2 of Chris Overland. Nathan Lyon will roll off from the seventh position. The eighth spot belongs to last week's pole sitter Santiago Tiras. Michael Guest will start from the ninth spot. And last week's winner at Atlanta, Ray Alfaro, will start from 10th.
Starting in the 11th position will be Justin Bolton, followed by Chris Sherburne in 12th. Will Cooley will start in the 13th position. Alongside him, Brian Schoenberg in 14th. Braden Bolus will start in the 15th position. Alongside him will be Brandon Cattell in 16th. Jeremy Davis will be starting from the 17th position alongside Matthew Wright in the 18th position. And 19th will be Eric Smith, and rounding out your top 20 will be Casey Tucker.
21st will be Brian Blackford, and Ryan Lowe will start 22nd. 23rd belongs to Adam Gilliland. Ashton Crowder will start from 24th. 25th is where you'll find Jesse Swartz. The 95, the 08 of Jeremy Allen starts in 26th. Steve Sheehan in that 6th car rolls off from 27th. 28th will be the 31 of Logan Kress. Michael Greeley will start from the 29th position, and David Shutt begins tonight's race from 30th.
Starting in the 31st position will be Brad Mahar, followed by Bob Bryan, who had a strong run last week at Atlanta in 32nd. Adam Benefield will start in the 33rd position alongside Daytona winner and current points leader John Gorlinski in 34th. 35th will be Benjamin Nelson. Alongside him, Kane Cook in the 36th. And 37th will be Liam Brotherton and Nicholas Shelton in 38th. Corey Carpenter will start in the 39th position, and Timmy Hill will round out your 40-car field.
As we take a look at tonight's track facts, this is Richmond Raceway, a 3/4 of a mile, 1.21 kilometer long D-oval that traces its roots back to the track that opened here in 1946, though they didn't actually go racing here at Richmond until the mid-50s. There are 14 degrees of banking in the corners, 8 degrees of banking on that D-shaped part of the oval on the front stretch, and then the back stretch has 2 degrees of banking. It's currently this upcoming Saturday, November 9th, 2019, right around 3:45 p.m. local time. We'll be going for 200 laps, 150 miles, 242 kilometers with 3 attempts in the green, white checker, 80 degrees Fahrenheit air temp, 86 degrees Fahrenheit track temp. It's the southwest at 4 miles an hour, humidity at 54%. Pretty shallow November conditions. We're glad you're watching with us here on the Podium Esports Network and all of iRacing social media channels as we go take the green flag from Richmond. And we're off and away as they carry on and push on through the beginning of this race. And Cody Bias jumps out ahead of Graham Boland and Colin Keister as Keister and Boland race side by side. Ethan Lane sitting right behind them, as is at 47 of Nathan Lyon, as they all try and shuffle their way around and get themselves sorted out. Looks like there's still going to be a battle between Keister and Boland. Maybe a little bit more single file just behind those two.
Also behind him will be Ethan Lane and Nathan Lyon, who are going to go side by side as they go down in turn 3. Colin Keister moves up into second, while once again Graham Boland and Alex McCullum will do battle for that third position as they go side by side down the front straightaway.
So Bias, then Keister, then Boland and McCollum side by side, then Nathan Lyon, who's on his own, then Ethan Lane and Chris Overland, who are side by side, and as Lane catches the wall coming out of 2, so Overland will get that spot. He'll go to 6th. Michael Guest will slide ahead on that 26 just for the moment, and I think should have 7th at the line. It'll be tight. And indeed, Michael Guest did it. Well, no, Ethan Lane. No, Michael Guest did have it at the line, but they're still side by side as the 98. Justin Bolton gets loose out of 2.
Justin Bolton having to try to recover as he almost decided to go 3 wide with Santiago and Chris Sherburne, who were trying to take it 3 wide down back straight, but had to think twice of it. They're still going to do battle as they come across the line, as Justin Bolton is able to hold off both competitors as they dive into turn 1. Up ahead of him, though, Ray Alfaro looking and prodding his way to get back up inside the top 5 as he's now working on the outside to get around Michael Guest. Now he's going to split the difference as he tries to see if he can get in between him and Ethan Lane as they come off turn 4.
Trying to find the room, but there's still just that big block of Guest. And now here comes Alfaro 3 wide underneath them both. So Alfaro is going to clear lane with ease. And now Guest will have the top side, and Ray wiggles a little bit off of 2. But a bold move from last week's winner to jump underneath, both of them going into 1. Alfaro wasting no time trying to get to the front of this field.
He is not wasting any time whatsoever as he now dives to the bottom of the racetrack to get by Michael Guest. Still is not quite working out for him as they're still going to be side by side coming off a turn 2. Guest gets a little bit loose. Ray Alfala continues to pull ahead and move up into 7th place.
All kinds of battles all over the place as Guest got loose, then got tight on corner exit. Now Alfala will at least have the nose ahead at the start-finish line. Won't necessarily have Guest clear, but now Guest will roll it up on the top side, try and carry a little bit of momentum, but that's hard to do here at Richmond. It's not like Atlanta where you've got enough banking to support you. More often than not, it is that inside line that ends up being the faster one at Richmond, and that's definitely the place I think you want to be at this point of the race when we've only got less than 10 laps complete, less than 10 laps of these tires. There still should be a decent amount of grip down low.
But a little bit of grip still on these cars. They're still trying to run the bottom as best as they can as they now right behind Ray Alfala. Bolton is now going to dive to the bottom of the racetrack to try to go side by side with Michael Guest. This battle for the 8th position. Once again, back at it. Guest trying everything he can to work that outside group to help him out a little bit, but it's going to be just so difficult as that bottom group is the best line for him to run.
So Guest might get stuck in the freight train. Also saw Chris Overland almost put the bumper to Alex McCollum just a little bit further up the racetrack. Those two could be in a pretty good battle for 5th and 6th. And Nathan Lyon also needs to watch out. Now here goes McCollum to the inside of Lyon going into 1 and 2. Lyon will roll the top side though, carry the momentum out of 2 and maintain the spot as Michael Guest is going to slide back one more spot. Justin Bolton has got him clear. Now Ethan Lane is looking underneath the 54. You just can't find a way back into this line, and I think now finally is going to get the chance to get back into the groove, get single file, and maybe get to the inside of the racetrack for one of the first times tonight as they check up a little bit behind Ethan Lane.
Yeah, Chris Sherburne had to check up big time. That gives the opportunity for Santiago Gutierrez to get to the inside, but Sherburne is still trying to work hard on the outside to keep that position. But now that he's stuck on the outside like Michael Guest was, he is going to have a little bit of tough time to try to hold off Santiago and could be dropping back.
Could be potentially, but we'll see what the 37 or 36 can do to hang on to the position over these next few laps, because his best friend at this point might be Brian Schoenberg in that 5 car who got right underneath Terrace going into turn 3. Those two will be side by side. That'll be for the 12th position if Schoenberg can stay alongside the number 18 machine.
Schoenberg trying to still keep it on the inside to prevent Santiago from sliding in front of him, which he will fail to do on the back straightaway as they go into turns 3 and 4. Now we see Santiago Gutierrez now back to the bottom of the racetrack.
Everybody now single file for the most part throughout the top 20. Nobody really trying to jump out and make any sort of wild moves just yet. But a lot of drivers, I feel like, waiting for someone to slip up and make a mistake as Cody Bias still controls this race after 14 laps complete of 200. He's out in front of Colin Kuster by about a quarter of a second. So maybe 2 or 3 car lengths, which isn't all that much, but that's definitely bigger here at Richmond and more meaningful than it would be at most other racetracks. As the top 5 have strung themselves out in the first battle. Chris Sherburne, Ethan Lane, 10th and 11th fighting on the racetrack as they come out of turn 4.
Ethan Lane powers on the outside lane to get by Chris Sherburne as they now go down the front straightaway. Sherburne, though, still got that bottom advantage as he will drive his car down to the inside, but Ethan Lane is able to just power through on the outside lane. Great path. Now here comes Santiago Gutierrez on the outside of Chris Sherburne down into turns 3 and 4, but Sherburne with that bottom momentum is helping him keep him side by side with Santiago as they come out of 4, but here comes Santiago with a little bit more momentum. It seems like the outside group is starting to come into play.
Outside group might be starting to come in. I also think that Sherburne's really struggling on corner exit because he just can't get going when he gets back to the throttle the way some of these other drivers around him can. So he'll slide back to 12th. Brian Schoenberg would be next on the list, and a few more good battles right here. And how about Brandon Cattell, too, as he nudges Schoenberg in the rear of that number 5 machine just a little bit. But Cattell having a nice run. Started in 16th, slid back a little bit at the start. Now I think that we're almost 20 laps into the screen flag run. It seems like tire temps and all have come up, and I think Cattell's found a nice little groove here because it seems like he's starting to come back up through the field and make a charge towards the front. It's kind of what he did last week in Atlanta. Didn't have the greatest qualifying runs, but spent a very large chunk of that race in the top 10 after racing his way up there early on in the event.
I'm pretty sure we will see Cattell up towards the top 10, even into the top 5 before the night's over with, as he now goes to the inside of Schoenberg. But Schoenberg's still going to try to fight with him as he comes off turn 4. Cattell gets a little bit loose right there, has to back off. Now back into 1. They're still going to be side by side. Cattell trying his best to just power through on the inside, but Schoenberg with momentum on the high side is keeping that car going.
Schoenberg at that high-performance motorsports machine, powers on the outside, and you got Jeremy Davis and another high-performance motorsports machine right behind Cattell. So Cattell in the middle of an HPM sandwich. Meanwhile, Will Cooley racing with the 01 of Braden Boulos. Those two side by side for position, and that would be for 16th and 17th. And you've got Eric Smith and Adam Golan also racing for 18th and 19th, just behind this group.
Will Cooley had a really good run last week at Atlanta, so he's trying to capitalize on that to help propel him up into the point standings a little bit more. Give him a little bit of a cushion right now as he's trying to work that outside lane, but Boulos, though, has a little bit of a better car on that inside group to help keep him side by side with Cooley as they go back down the back straightaway into turn 3.
So Nathan Lyon has cleared Alex McCall to go to fourth. The Lyon at the 47 trying to start Graham Bolin for a race position, but we'll keep our eyes here on this battle between Cooley and Braden Boulos, which is the first real proper side-by-side battle on track, and you've got some fast cars in this group as well. Eric Smith, who won the eNASCAR iRacing Series event at California this past March, is in the mix here. Adam Golan is also fighting for position. Casey Tucker in the 28 machine, also fighting for spots with Brian Blackford in the 32.
Yeah, we got about 4 cars up on the outside lane. Brian Blackford along with Adam Gillen, Smith, and Cooley. They were trying to work that outside group pretty well to be able to get by that bottom car on the inside lane of Casey Tucker. As we see Gillen powering up on the outside in his number 8 Toyota Supra down the front straightaway. He might be able to clear Casey Tucker once again to the 1.
Gilliland on the top, Tucker on the bottom. Big run, though, for Gilliland on the top side, so he'll make that look easy. If anything, Tucker had to get out of the throttle a little bit coming out of that last shine by, and he slips a little bit further back right next to Brian Blackford. As we'll turn our attention to the 26 of Ethan Lane, who is to the outside of Santiago Gutierrez. This is for 10th and 11th on the racetrack as they work lap 27 of 200.
26 car Ethan Lane, though, has decided to go side by side once again, this time with the 18 of Santiago Gutierrez. They're going to go side by side. Santiago has a little bit of a half a car length up in front of Ethan Lane down the front straightaway, but Lane has been working that outside group pretty good now as he now slots back behind Santiago, trying the crossover move down the back straightaway. Can't quite get to the inside, though, of Santiago as they go into turn 3.
And guess who else is there? Michael Gaffney. We've already talked about a little bit in this race. Somehow, after the way he had slid back, has found a little groove here of his own and currently runs right where he qualified in the 9th position. Not too many movers and shakers in this race. Everybody running within maybe 3 or 4 spots of where they qualified in most cases. So the drivers really struggling, just trying to find a hole through the field here. But then again, this is a tough place to race. Not a lot of room to get around cars, and not too many alternative grooves that you can work towards to try and make something happen. Although we should see, as you pointed out a little bit earlier, Taylor, this outside groove, that second lane should come into play a little bit more over the course of this race as drivers are forced up there and as the second group begins to build in some rubber.
And also the speeds will continue to go faster as this sun will continue setting. So these drivers are definitely going to have to find the right adjustments here before the night's over with to help propel their car, especially on that outside groove. So we'll have to keep an eye to see what these drivers do as far as pit stop adjustments later on.
Definitely something you'll have to keep track of as Justin Bolton got in the wall coming out of 4 that last time by. He runs an 8th at the moment, and that got them a little bit further back of Ray Alfala than he'd like. Not too much damage on that 98 machine, but certainly won't help as Tierras continues to lead the group right behind this as Michael Guest is there, and Chris Sherburne just got around Ethan Lane for the 11th position. Great
Pass by Chris Sherburne. It's Ethan Lane now as he goes set his sight on Michael Guest. He's going to run a little bit of that middle groove there, not up towards the top of the racetrack, but just right half a lane up compared to Michael Guest. Guest gets a little bit loose coming off of turn 2, has to gather it back up just a little bit as they go down into turns 3 and 4, nose to tail. But right up ahead of him, this is the battle going on between Chris Oberlin along with Alex McCullum. They have been going side by side through the corners here.
McCollum and Overland are side by side. Shearburn is now underneath Michael Guest, trying to take over a spot in the top 10. Ethan Lane sitting, waiting, wondering who's going to get the better of this battle, and maybe might have designs of doing what Alfala did very early on in this race, just going 3 wide right down to the bottom as they enter turn 1. He won't try to pull that move off this time, so it'll still be Guest and Shearburn racing side by side. Meanwhile, McCollum has maintained his spot over Chris Overland, but it's a weird first 30 laps to me in that it feels like there are a lot of drivers who could just start sliding back and dropping like a rock through the standings, and yet we haven't really seen anybody fall back all that much.
No one has really made any major gains or major losses at this race at the point in time right now. As watching Ethan Lane, he gets a little bit loose through there, but is able to recover. But to your point, we may see some drivers just trying to bide their time, knowing how difficult this track is at Richmond. The car, if you don't make the right inputs in the throttle and steering, you could easily send that car careening up into the wall, especially coming off corner exit of turn 2. So I'm pretty sure these drivers are taking it a little bit easy, but also trying to push it to that edge.
And this is a track where I think steering wheel input in particular can be big. If you try and force it too much with your wheel, it is a fast track to burning off the front tires in particular, and you will almost immediately lose grip and start sliding up the racetrack, up the hill, and back through the field. So you have to be careful not to overdrive it on the front end to make sure that you can drive up to the front of the field in the back half of this race.
Couldn't agree with you more on that, James. And these drivers are trying to do the best that they can as far as making sure that they don't overcook the tires this early on in the run. So that way they can try to save it in case some of these other drivers are not as patient and cooking the tires a little bit too much.
As we still have that battle between Shearburn and Guest, they're still side by side racing for position. Schoenberg and Kittel and Braden Boulos are right behind this group as Boulos is looking down to the bottom. He's trying to take advantage of Schoenberg. I don't know if blocking Kittel is the right word, but they're definitely running that same line on the high side and not really all that worried about taking up the bottom. And they're two of the first drivers near the front of the field to commit up there and run up there of their own accord and not necessarily be forced up there by running side by side with someone. So I think that's an interesting point to note. We'll see if that gives them a little bit better handle on how that middle groove works when we get deeper into this race.
It looks like from all the way from Christopher Sherburne all the way back to Braden Boulos is running that middle groove top side lane. As we go look at the 0-2 car right now, Chris Overland, he's going to be side by side with Alex McCullum on the outside. Straight to wall coming off of turn 2 just a little bit, but is still able to hold on to his race car as McCullum on the inside, Overland up on the top side in his Camaro to battle to try to see who will beat the top 5.
It was tight, and it wasn't all that much contact, but just a little bit. McCollum's got some damage on that right front of his number 91 as well. So both drivers not necessarily racing with clean cars. The driver who does have a clean car, though, at this point, Ray Alfala in the 2 right behind them, who won a week ago at Atlanta and is putting together another strong run after a disappointing season opener at Daytona, where he got swept up in that very early big one right around lap 20 or so. Alfala already in the top 10 once again and continuing his push to get back into the eNASCAR iRacing Series of 2020 as McCollum gets loose off of 2, so that will give Overland and Alfala 5th and 6th. McCollum slides back to 7th.
Ray Alfala got a little bit loose like they're coming off turn 4, but is able to cover nicely. Now sets his sight on Chris Overland as they come off of turn 2. Has to break a little bit as Overland gets a great run off there and has closed the gap between him and Nathan Lott.
Overland with a solid run, already trying to track down that 47 of Nathan Lyon. And to be fair, these drivers from 4th, 5th, 6th-ish, sort of in that ballpark, everybody that's been there all night, haven't really been able to drive off the front of this field. Cody Bias is clear by a second over Colin Keister, and Keister's got a second on Graham Bollitt. You have to go about 2.5 seconds back of Bias to find Nathan Lyon and company. So it's that front 3 and then 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a lot of space once you get past Alfala, McConnell. Justin Bolton's got a lot of breathing room. That's just Santiago Tiras. That is just Chris Shearburn. And then you've got this group of Gaston Lane and Boulos, and then the whole Kittel, Gilliland, Schoenberg, Jeremy Davis group of drivers. And will sit there for the moment because Kitchell has spent the last 4 or 5 laps holding off Adam Gilliland as best he can, but that 8 car looks awfully strong in comparison to the 80 at this point.
Yeah, it looks like Gilliland's going to try to power onto the inside to get by Catelli, but it's going to be difficult because Cattell has been working that outside group pretty hard for these past few laps and holding strong on that outside stand like you brought up, but now Gilliland just dives to the bottom of the racetrack and tries to break Cattell and might make it work. Slide jobs right in front. Cattell might try to go to the inside, undercut him, but that will not work this time around. Gilliland pulls away.
So Gilliland now clears Kitchell and is up into the 14th spot. Braden Boulos will be next on the list for the driver of the number 8 car. And he will duck down to the inside of Ethan Lane as they go through 3 and 4 and will try and take over 12, but won't quite get the run he needs off the corner. So Lane will continue, and Boulos will have to settle in here as Michael Guest has got that middle groove well blocked for the 26.
He has a great job of holding off Ethan Lane and Boulos as they go down the back straightaway. Michael Guest just running that in-between groove, that groove and between the outside groove and that bottom lane now. As now we see Ethan Lane get real loose coming off of turn 4. That's going to allow Boulos to get to the inside of Lane as they go side by side. Boulos tries to outbrake. A little contact right there between him and Ethan Lane as they come down the back straightaway. I think they're still going to be able to carry on.
How frustrating is this if you're Ethan Lane? You've just been running behind Michael Guest trying to find an opportunity in which he slips up and you can duck down underneath him and make the move, and then all of a sudden Braden Boulos uses the inside to great effect and gets right around you. So now here comes Lane back to the inside trying to do exactly what Boulos did to him just a lap ago. Couldn't quite get the run he needed off the corner, though, to make it happen. So Boulos now in 12th, Guest in 11th. They've still got a ways to go to catch up to Sherburne, Suez, Bolton, and then that group of McCollum and Alfala and Overland and Lyon and company.
Ooh, Nathan Lyon just got a big wiggle coming off of turn 2 right there. Was able to nicely recover the car, though, but Chris Overland's going to take a peek to the outside as they come off of turn 4. Nose to tail once again. This is the battle for 4th position. Overland takes another peek to the inside, but there Nathan Lyon is able to block that and prevent Chris Overland from taking to the inside. Now have to try the outside as they come off of turn 2.
We'll also let you know as we've cleared the quarter mark of tonight's race that if your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium Esports, we have space available for you. Podium Esports has a plan for every budget. You can custom tailor solutions to suit your business or brand's needs best. For more information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com. Not a lot of movement between this 3, 4, or rather 4, 5, 6, 7 group. They're all nose to tail. They're all within about 5 car lengths. They all have managed to stay in those spots for about the last 30 laps or so. Though Alfala may have just opened the door up for McCollum. He slid way up in the middle of 1 and 2 and then managed to come down the hill and get a great run out onto the back straightaway to maintain the spot. So not a lot of shuffling between those spots, but there's still some good action. Your best battles usually started right around that 10th, 11th, 12th spot. And you got Braden Boulos, Michael Guest, Ethan Lane still racing for spots. Boulos has cleared Guest, and now Ethan Lane is trying to do the same. And Adam Gilliland with a nice run. Now that we've had a few laps completed here, Gilliland is your hardest charging the drivers in this field to this point. As we turn our attention to Will Cooley in just a moment, as Gilliland has come up 9 spots from where he started. Began this race in 23rd, currently runs in 14th. As Cooley now trying to fight off Jeremy Allen and Brad Mahart.
There, Will Cooley's trying to work that inside line as best that he can, but Brad Mahar and Jeremy Allen doing a great job of running that outside groove now as Cooley dives to go back to the bottom of the racetrack once again as he is going to possibly get a nose out in front of Brad Mahar, but won't work this time. Mahar, just with that outside momentum, keeps him in front. Now Mahar's going to take a look to the inside of Jeremy Allen, while the 10 of Liam Brotherton will go side by side with Will Cooley as they come off of turn 2.
So Allen and Mahar, then Brotherton and Cooley, 4 cars here racing for spots, and Michael Garigoli is sitting right there in between them. Thought about looking to the middle of that group. Would have made it very fun down the front straightaway. Well, better of it, decided to tuck right back in line. So still Mahar and Allen side by side, and Mahar just can't quite get the run on the bottom that he needs to clear that 08 machine. There's certainly the pace on corner entry, but not quite enough on corner exit to finish off the move.
looking through the field right now, I tell you what, two drivers who are not having a good run right now is John Gorlinski and Bob Bryant. They are sitting back in 39th and 40th. And looking in on where our leader is right now, they're on the same straightaway as our leader, Cody Bias, as Cody Bias is just now entering turn one, while our points leaders up at the front is Gorlinski and Bryant. They are just now came off at turn two and now entering turn three. So give it a few laps or so. Cody Bias could be putting our points leaders a lap down here.
Cody Bias definitely trying to stretch this lead out a little bit. He's got some room to get to Gorlinski, but I don't think you're all that worried about Gorlinski or Brian. If you're Bias, you're worried once you get to the group right ahead of them, maybe 3 or 4 seconds up the track. But this really tough battle, you've got Kane Cook, Timmy Hill, Steve Sheehan, Logan Crest. They are 3 wide going into turn one. That's the sort of racing that would scare anybody in the lead position, because if you're racing that hard side by side for spots, doesn't matter whether or not it's for 3rd or 30th, you get into someone here, there's not a lot of room to escape an incident. If you're the leader, you could get swept up in something very quickly.
Every position, every point matters for these drivers as they're trying their best to work their way up through the field to try to stay on the lead lap. But it's going to be difficult for these drivers as they can still continue to
push on and try and make their charge towards the front stick. Adam Golan is now underneath Michael Guest and clears the 54. So Guest continuing to slide back a little bit. He's now running in the 13th position. Golan will try and run down Bulos, who has picked up about a second and change on that 8 car in this interchange. And it seems like of these cars, it looks like Guest is the one that really is struggling for pace at this moment. It looks like there's about a second in between all these drivers that he's battled with over the past 30 or 40 laps and where his car is. And you can sort of see, I guess, the evidence of them taking their time to get around Guest and finding a way around him, and then waiting for the next person to do it. Because Shearman was able to clear him, and then it took a little bit for Bulos to clear Guest, and then Bulos made it happen, and then Gillen's taking some time to clear him, and incidentally, there's about a second in between all those drivers as Shearman jumps underneath Justin Bolton to take over the 9th position.
apparently there's something going on with the battle with the 5 car right now, as Schoenberg is trying to do battle with the 28 car right now as they're going into turn 1 and 2 side by side. That's going to be Casey Tucker. Schoenberg, though, working that high side once again up on the outside, working, trying to keep that momentum up. But Casey Tucker is doing the best he can, fighting on the inside as they come off of turn 4. Schoenberg, though, is able to keep a nose advantage as they come across the line.
Is for 18th and 19th on the racetrack, and Brian Blackford and Brian Mahar are right behind this group should they decide to tangle and get into it. Eric Smith is just in front of these groups, and Schoenberg will clear Tucker, maintain the spot. We'll try and chase down the 51 machine as Cody Bias is still in control of this race.
Yeah, Cody Bias currently has about a 2.6, 2.7 lead over Colin Keister right now. So absolutely putting on a great run. What he needs to do here to try to work his way up into the top 20 here tonight.
And Bias was sitting right on the bubble coming into tonight's race, 20th in points. So any good run, if he can maintain this, would be very, very beneficial to the driver of the number 24 machine. We'll slide a little bit further back. Ashton Crowder is the next driver who's found Michael Guest in a 54 machine. And Crowder, I think, should make quick work of Guest and slide up a spot. So Crowder now in 13th, Guest back to 14th. Ethan Lane is there in 15th, waiting to make a move. And then you can slide a little bit further back. Everybody else between Guest and Lane and company, all single file until you get to Brian Schoenberg and Casey Tucker, who are still racing. And then you got Brian Blackford and Brad Mahar, who are also racing side by side, just a little bit further back of this.
Brian Blackford might be making a mistake trying to run that outside groove as Brad Mahar was able to get by him. Now he has to worry about Matthew Wright, who tried the same thing, but now Matt with Liam Brotherton on his inside as they come off of turn 2. So a lot of battles. Ooh, as Wright hits the wall coming off of turn 2. That's going to give Brotherton the opportunity to get to the inside and try to clear him, but it's going to be tight. Slide right up across his nose as they come off of 4.
Really tight stuff there for Brotherton, but he made it work and got the pass completed. So Brotherton, the 22nd, right back to 23rd. They'll run that middle group just to make sure no one can get the wild runs that we see, depending on how you apex these corners, and a little bit of contact between Jeremy Allen and Matthew Wright.
Jeremy Allen tried to put a little bit of a push on Matthew Wright to get him up the track just a little bit so he can get to the inside. And he's just got his nose right at the rear bumper of Matthew Wright. Now they'll go side by side into turn one, and Allen just doing everything he can to keep that momentum up on the inside, but Wright still pushes hard on the outside group to still stay side by side as they go into turn three.
Still side by side they go. They might bounce off each other coming out of four, and if anything, it's going to be Allen who gets a little bit loose on corner exit. Right at that top line, able to pull some air off the side of the 08, get the rear end a little bit sideways, but they're still side by side coming down the backstretch.
Still going to be side by side once again as they come off a turn four. Matthew Wright just powering on the outside groove, with Jeremy Allen just can't quite seem to make it work on the inside off corner exit of turn four. But Matthew Wright doing the best that he can. He's going to try to clear him as they go into one, and he will, as Jeremy Allen, though, tries to power back on the inside as Wright gets loose.
Wright continues.
Oh, contact!
Contact between the two of them, and Matthew Wright's going to get to Jeremy Allen, and those two will run into trouble and bring out the first yellow flag of the evening as Wright is up on his lid, and there are a few more cars that will come in a little bit further back and get involved in this. But the first yellow flag here, hard side-by-side racing between Jeremy Allen and Matthew Wright, and they just came together on quarter entry. Wright goes sideways. Allen comes through all of this madness. Looks like Ryan Lowe had absolutely nowhere to go. Same can be said for Nicholas Shelton in the 12 car, who just drove straight into the side of Wright. And that's actually what got Wright on his lid in 3 and 4. And the 33 machine came in a little bit later after that and got into this mess too, as did the 6. So Ben Nelson and Steve Sheehan and the 55 of Kane Cook also involved.
Great battling, but of course this is short track racing. Allen and Wright doing battle. A lot of contact were there, but unfortunately that might have been the end of the night for Matthew Wright as well as a couple of other drivers. I tell you what, though, Ryan Lowe, even though he wasn't involved in that incident, nearly scathed by compared to the last 2 wrecks he was involved with at the past 2 rounds, as everybody's coming down pit road.
Everybody coming down pit road, save for Chris Overland in the O2 machine, who is going to stay out on 80 lap tires and see if he can shuffle around some of these strategies a little bit. But everybody else down pit road waiting for service and waiting to get back onto the racetrack with 4 fresh tires and fuel. That was a long green flag run, 80 laps. So I can't imagine anybody else would try and pull strategy here.
As they race off pit road, it'll be Cody Bias, followed by Colin Keister, then Graham Boland, Ray Alfala, and Nathan Lyon, your top 5, as they will race off pit road. But that'll move them all down just 1 position, as Chris Overland will be your race leader.
So Overland is going to now come down pit road. That's interesting. So he waits a lap and then comes down pit road for service. So Overland's just going to cycle in somewhere in this field. But it was Bias who won that battle off of pit road, and then Colin Keister, and then Graham Boland, and then Ray Alfala, and then Nathan Lyon and Alex McCollum. So pretty much the same characters that we've seen throughout this night running up in the top 5 and top 10. Gary Weaver, we want to bring you in here for a moment. We haven't had the chance to talk to you all that much this evening, but an 80-lap green flag run, not something that you would expect to start a race at Richmond with. You would think that we haven't really come into tonight expecting that. In fairness, as I look at the stats here, that's the 2nd longest green flag run we've had in a Pro Series race at Richmond in the last 5 races here. So, what do you notice? What do you see? What do you learn? And what do you think we should expect?
What I've seen so far, at least in the first about 40 or so laps, is that a few drivers have been mostly running the middle, the top side, especially in turns 1 and 2. But a lot of drivers have been getting loose in that area as well, but nothing really too major as to warrant anything of a massive recording effect or a stack up. So if this pattern continues, which I highly expect it to continue on with this long green flag run, I think we'll be seeing another long run once again. And maybe even the green flag pit stop, warranting that we've really seen no one really push the issue as of much. We've seen a few 3 wide, but we haven't really seen it often or anyone trying, again, force the issue. But something that's kind of stuck out to me is that Gorlinski and Bryan have been running at the back. They nearly got put a lap down as well just before the caution came out. And personally, I think they're pretty lucky that they managed at the time of the caution was very lucky for them as the lights are out.
Lights are out on the pace car. Restart will come on lap 84 on 200. Your top 10 looks like this. It's Cody Bias, your race leader. Then Colin Keister, Graham Bolin, Ray Alfala, Nathan Lyon, Alex McCollum, Santiago Gutierrez, Chris Sherburne, Braden Bulos, and Justin Bolton, your top 10. Also of note, if you want a fun stat, the average run of a green flag stint here at Richmond, 18 laps, and after the first yellow, it drops to 17 over the last 4 races here at Richmond, excluding this one. So you would think in theory we should be going for about no longer than 20 laps. So it could be a series of sprint races here, but Bias with a good restart ahead of Bolin. Then Lyon gets loose out of the corner, so Keister should be able to jump to the top side. Here comes Alfala with them as they're still side by side a little bit further back in the field.
Everybody going to be, as another caution is out on the racetrack here.
Trying to see where our yellow flag is, and it is for, I believe, Michael Aurelia in the number 15 machine. We'll see what happened to that car, and it looks like, if you take a look at the replay, may have gotten a little bit of help. Looks like David shut the 42 bounced off the wall, and the 15 just sort of was the ping pong victim more than anything else. Spun to the inside and ended up in the fence.
Unfortunate for Griglia. He was having a strong run here early on, but working his way up through the field. But unfortunately with that, that's going to cause a little bit of damage to that car and also prevent him from not having some of the best speed. But thankfully, this is a short track, so aerodynamics will not be key. But let's keep an eye, making sure that we'll have an issue.
We'll see if anybody comes down to pit road this time. That would be an interesting call if you decided. It looks like you got a few takers. Ryan Lowe is in for service. David Sutter was involved in that incident coming down, presumably to get a little bit of the damage fixed on his car. I see Guerrilla, Ben Nelson in, Kane Cook, Nicholas Shelton, Corey Carpenter, Justice Force, Steve Sheehan, Ryan Lowe, so Adam Benefield. Basically, a lot of the drivers towards the back half, especially of the top 20, all coming in, all trying to get the cars patched up and get a little bit fresher rubber on their wheels than some of the other drivers further up the field.
With that, it also gives Logan Crest the opportunity to get back out onto the lead lap here. So as he will be back on one of his laps back, or actually on the lead lap here, as now it'll be the total couple of cars back on the track.
As we turn our attention to High Performance Motorsports, Nick Morris, who joins us up here in the broadcast booth. Nick, first 80 laps, we saw a long green flag run, and then maybe the shortest green flag run you'll see at Richmond, or at least one of them. Can you take anything for the difference between the two and project into what we should see in the second half of this race?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time preparing and doing a lot of data and taking this very seriously, and our trend showed exactly that. We thought we were going to get an 86 lap, a caution on lap 86, and we got one on lap 80, and we would expect probably 17 to 20 lap runs to the end here. So that's what we built for, and that's what the HPM Total Advantage Chevy Camaros and Ford Mustangs are prepared for.
Somebody gets all lined up very quickly. Thoughts on how your drivers are doing? Jeremy Davis, Brian Schoenberg, and company running up towards the back end of the top 20, but everybody's still holding strong after 87 laps.
Yeah, it's a lot about track position as we're about to go green here. You can definitely tell when you have a corporate setup. The guys will run 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th all together. So we're actually pretty happy. We had really good times there, but it's track position. It's so gosh darn hard to pass. So I think we'll get our cars in the top 15 where they were at the start of the run, and if we can dodge a few wrecks, we'll be all right.
Seems appropriate. Seems like a strong line of thought. Nick, we'll let you get back to it with your team, but thanks as always for coming up in the booth. We wish you luck the best of the race.
All right, thanks, guys.
Nick Morris, managing everything for High Performance Motorsports tonight as we come back to The 1 to go signal. We'll look for a restart on lap 90 of 200. Bias, Bolin, Keister, Lyon, Alfala, Tires, McCollum, Sherburne, Bulos, Bolton. Your top 10 at Richmond. Waiting on the pace car to pull left into pit road and jump out of the way to let Cody Bias and Graham Bolin lead us back to green flag racing. Bias will go. Bolin didn't quite get the greatest of restarts, but I think that was intentional. He slides right down to the bottom. Won't have anything to do with waiting up on the top side, as the front three are now already just about clear, as Nathan Lyon got a little bit aggressive on corner entry in 1, so that gives Keister the ability to clear. Here comes Alfala down to the inside of Nathan Lyon, trying to take away that 4th position, but the yellow flag is out once again for another incident here at Richmond.
Liam Brotherton once again caught up in an incident here at Richmond, trying to find out what the issue is. But he has sustained some damage.
A little bit of contact with Bob Bryant, who I think might have gotten some help from Jeremy Allen in the 08 machine, or Bryant. No, Bryant got loose all by himself, and Brotherton just happened to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and he was just stuck up against the fence. Michael really had absolutely nowhere to go and just drove right into that number 10 machine. And then I think Jesse Schwartz and Corey Carpenter might have picked up a little bit of damage in that incident as well.
Also looked like Benjamin Nelson also had some damage from that, and several other cars, so that's not going to be good for these drivers as they try to work their way back up and also try to regain some of that lost position that they had from those earlier cautions that we just...
We continue to push on and see how things shake out and see how the rest of this race is going to pan out here. We've had absolutely no green flag runs beyond about 5 laps here, and now about the past 10 to 15 after that 80 lap green flag run to start, and all coming off of turn 2. I think that's the interesting thing to me. It's all been in that part of the racetrack where we've seen all these incidents.
It is, and it seems that's where the truffle area is. It's coming off of turn 2 for these drivers, and that is the problem area for the drivers because of that throttle input along with the steering input. That car gets a little bit too tight if you turn in too much onto the racetrack, and that'll easily send you up into the wall very quickly. Of course, with that incident, Bob Bryant got a little bit loose, making that contact with Liam Brotherton.
As we continue to push on here and wait to see what the next restart will bring, see if anybody comes down pit road for service, and I think pretty much everybody's going to try and stay out, save for some of these drivers way towards the back. Timmy Hill, John Gorlinski, Kane Cook, Bob Bryant, Jesse Spores, Adam Benefield, Nicholas Shelton, Steve Sheehan, David Chetman Nelson, Michael Griglia, Corey Carpenter, Liam Brotherton, Matthew Wright, all in for service at this point.
It's an interesting strategy call that some of those drivers toward the back of the field have, that they're trying to see if fresher tires could help out, even though they just recently pitted not too long ago either. So they had to see what they can do compared to the rest of the field, as we're now 1 to green.
We get set to get back to racing here on lap 95 of 200. More 96 rather. Lights still on the pace car, but it's Bias, Bolin, Keister, Lyon, Alfala, Tires, McCollum, Bulo, Sherburne, Gilliland. Your top 10 for this restart when it counts. Taylor Burrows.
Tell you what, it's been nice to see some of these drivers working up through the field. Cody Bias having a strong run all night long, like we talked about earlier, in the 20th position and the point standings on the cut line, running this strong race. Graham Bolin, who's out around the inside that top area of the top 20, I look outside looking in, and just needing a good run here tonight as well. And then Colin Keister, who had a great run the last couple of times out, is looking to redeem himself to get here. Nathan Lyon also in that 4th position, also trying to keep his spot up inside the top 10 in the point standings. And then, of course, Ray Alfala, our last round winner, sitting in 5th position, just needing to just manage that gap that he has in order to make it back into the eNASCAR iRacing series.
as we get set for more green flag racing here at Richmond. Pace car will get set to come on. Cody Bias and Graham Bolin will lead us to the green and take off. Bias will go. Bolin will try and get down to the bottom, but a better restart for Colin Keister that time, so Bolin will be stuck up on the top side this time around and won't really have anywhere to go. As Nathan Lyon and Ray Alfala sit right there. We'll see if we have any more incidents coming up to this time around. Looks like everybody gets through clean for the moment, but Bias still your race leader and Keister racing Bolin for second.
Those drivers stuck on the outside groove are trying their best to try to get to the bottom of the racetrack, as it is definitely a logjam on the inside of the field, as also Graham Bolin and Nathan Lyon are stuck out there on that outside groove. They are having a tough time trying to find a way to get back to the bottom of the racetrack. As a little bit of a checkup also for Colin Keister, who got loose, as Ray Alfala is trying to close and get to the inside.
As Keister finally clears Bolin to go to P2, and now Alfala looking to the bottom of Keister to try and get P3. It's been a hard battle between these three all night long, especially since Alfala got up there pretty quickly. He's done a nice job, started in 10th tonight and is back up to 4th, but Alfala looking at every bit now once we cleared Daytona, like the brother that the Wood brothers drafted in the eNASCAR iRacing series a year ago. At least the one that they suspected they'd be getting at the beginning of that season, as Bolin got really loose coming out of 2 that last time by. But looking a little bit more like 2018 Ray Alfala that secured his 4th eNASCAR iRacing Series championship and was just so good with the high horsepower, low downforce combination. Keister's next on the list for him. Meanwhile, McCollum is just ahead of this first big battle on the track. You've got Santiago Gutierrez, Nathan Lyon, Chris Sherburne racing for 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Chris Sherburne had a great run last round at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Looking to improve on that as he's trying to look to the inside of Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon, though, is able to hold him off on the outside groove as they go down into turn 1. Santiago Gutierrez, though, takes a peek to the inside of Alex McCollum through turns 1 and 2, though, as they come off of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Nobody getting too loose through there. Everyone keeping a nice line coming off corner exit as they go back in.
So they're stretching out just a little bit. We've cleared the halfway point of tonight's race, which means it's time to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing from the Australian Supercars, the Cars Tour, right here on the Podium Esports Network, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Cody Bias is your race leader after 102 laps complete of 200. He's been in control of this race from the get-go. Colin Keister runs in second ahead of Ray Alfala in third. Graham Bolin is slipped just back to the 4th position in front of Alex McCollum, who rounds out your top 5. 6 belongs to Santiago Gutierrez. Nathan Lyon holds the 7th spot in the 47 car. The 8th spot belongs to Chris Sherburne. Justin Bolton in the 98 runs in 9th, and Michael Guest rounds out the top 10 as they stand.
Sitting in the 11th position will be Chris Overland, followed by Ethan Lane in 12th. Adam Gilliland has moved up to the 13th position, gaining 10 spots. Behind him, Ashton Crowder, who's also gained 10 spots. He is sitting in 14th. Brandon Cattell is also sitting in 15th position. Behind him is Eric Smith in 16th. Braden Poulos has worked his way up to the 17th position with Casey Tucker in 18th. Jeremy Davis in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is Brian Blackford.
Jeremy Allen runs in the 21st position. Brian Schoenberg sits in 22nd. 23rd belongs to Brown Mahar, and Timmy Hill runs in 24th. Ryan Lowe has the 25th position at the moment. 26th belongs to Kane Cook. Will Cooley runs in 27th. 28th belongs to John Gorlinski. Nicholas Shelton and Bob Bryant round out the top 30.
Logan Kress is sitting in 31st position with Corey Carpenter in 32nd. David Shutt is in 33rd, followed by Michael Gariglia in 34th. Adam Benefield in 35th with Jesse Schwartz in 36th. Steve Sheehan is in 37th with Benjamin Nelson in 38th. Liam Brotherton is 39th, the first car 1 lap down, and Matthew Wright is in 40th.
And that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, visit iRacing.com today. As Cody Bias for the first time tonight has a little bit of a challenge from the 25 of Colin Keister, who has looked stronger and stronger as this race has progressed. And Ray Alfala, too, the number 2 car, has stalked his way from the 10th spot to the 3rd position and has really made a nice go of coming up through this field. One of the hardest chargers of tonight's race, along with Adam Gillen in that 8 car, who started 23rd and currently runs in the 12th position.
Also, you got to throw in the factor of Ashton Crowder, who's gained another 10 position. He started in 24th. He's now up to 14th, while Ethan Lane, who started inside the top 3, is now dragged back all the way outside the top 10. So he's having a little bit of a typical night here at Richmond.
There could be a really good battle between Keister and Alfala, developing for 2nd and 3rd at the moment as Boland slides up top. And McCollum also way wide that last time around through 3 and 4. And they're all largely nose to tail until you get to Ethan Lane and Ashton Crowder. And Lane will win that battle, so Crowder will go to 2nd. And now Eric Smith jumps underneath Brandon Cattell to try and take away 15.
Still going to be nose to tail throughout the rest of the field. The next battle going on between us. Chris Sherburne gets a little bit wide coming off of turn 4. Is able to recover, though, lose a couple of positions. The battle is going to be between Ashton Crowder and Ethan Lane. As Ethan Lane was able to work his way around Ashton Crowder going down the front straightaway as they go down into turn.
Ethan Lane now ahead of Crowder, and we'll try and run down Adam Goland, who has a very strong 8 car. I think that much we figured out. He's one of the few drivers that's been able to drive through this field as we try and figure out where the next best battle on track is going to be.
Pickford right now, who's having a great battle right around the outside the top 10, or actually outside the top 15. He's working his way around Casey Tucker. He takes a peek to the inside as they come off of turn 4. He's right there on the inside, but can't quite get there to the bottom of the racetrack just yet. Has to slot in behind him. Meanwhile, Jeremy Allen, Jeremy Davis, and Braden Bolus is doing battle with Brad Bahar right on the back bumper as they come off of turn 2.
There's a pretty good battle in there. You've got Tucker, you've got Blackford, you've got Allen, you've got Davis, you've got the Owen and Braden Boulos all in there trying to sort this out. This is about 18th, 19th, 20th, and so on and so forth.
Braden Boulos is kind of a little bit trapped behind the 64 of Jeremy Davis as Davis washed it up a little bit high. This could give the opportunity to Brad Mahar to take a peek as he will now stick to the outside of the racetrack coming through turns 3 and 4. But Boulos still trying to make it work on the inside, but Mahar able to power on the outside with that grip coming into play on the outside grip as they go into.
As they're starting to slide up the racetrack, we've got about 40 laps on the tires of everyone who pitted on that first yellow flag. And Matthew Wright went upside down in between 3 and 4 as we focus in on this battle between Allen and Blackford. And the 32 with a good run on the outside. But Allen with that great entry into the corner to slide right up and right clear and nearly jump ahead of Blackford. He's going to get a big run at a 2 to stay alongside.
He's going to be side by side once they go back into turn 3 and 4. Allen, though, trying to outbreak him into the corner entry, but Blackford was just taking a little bit of time and patience. Powers on the outside lane as they'll still be side by side. In front of them, Casey Tucker is going to be maybe used as a pick for Allen to try to see if he can hold off Blackford, but Blackford's still going to be able to hold on as they come down the back straight.
Oh, wow. Casey Tucker nearly ran into the back of Eric Smith that last time by. Smith was going down to the bottom. He's trying to work over Brandon Cattell in that number 80 car to try and take away the 15th position as they continue to shuffle left, right, center, all over. But Allen did finally clear Blackford, so move Allen up to 18th, Blackford back to 19th.
Big save for Jeremy Eric Smith right there in that 51 car. He had a tough time through that as he is now was able to hold on and keep Casey Tucker behind.
They continue to push on here, working lap 121 of 200 at Richmond. So 80 laps to go in this third race of 7 in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series for 2019. Top 20 in points at the end of this go to the eNASCAR iRacing Series for 2020. Cody Bias still in control of this. Ray Alfala, though, right there with Colin Keister. And I think most importantly, compared to that long green flag run we had to start the race, they have not let the 24 car get away this time. Makes me wonder that as this track cools down a little bit, if it might be playing into Alfala and Keister's hands just a little bit. Although track temps are pretty impressive given the time of year we're running in and the time of day. It's about 4:30. It's this upcoming Saturday, November 9th, 2019. But track temps 92 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what a low sun and an angle that really spreads out that sunlight across the racetrack can do for you. Still plenty of heat in this asphalt.
Yeah, so it's starting to get a little bit cooler as even though with the sun going down, it's still going to get a little bit cooler as we progress on through the race, as we are closing in at the lap 125 here. And Cody Bias not as dominant as we saw early on. Keister still keeping him quite honest now, about 0.3 of a second separate him from the race leader. And then for another 10th back is going to be Ray Alfala. So these top three have checked out on the competition, kind of like what we saw at Atlanta a week ago.
Indeed, kind of like what we did see at Atlanta 1 week ago, is Alfala was the one who was able to jump out in front and really dominate the back half of the race. But still knows to sail that group, and a little bit of side-by-side action a little bit further back. Chris Sherburne took a look to the inside of Nathan Lyon, but for the most part, everybody in the top 10 pretty happy, comfortable, all right. And then you get back to Brandon Cattell in 15th, that is just a mess, 2x2 from out the next 5 spots on back.
Yeah, he is trying everything they can. It's a hornet's nest back here from 15th on back. Cattell is doing the best that he can to hold off Ethan Lane and Eric Smith and Jeremy Allen, as they're now going to go side by side once again. Braden Polis is going in this battle on the inside of Casey Tucker, with Brian Blackford looking on, finding out which lane to pick in order to determine where to be to gain the most position, as he gets a little bit loose coming through turns 1 and 2. Now he's trying to stuck between the bottom of the racetrack or that high groove, as the 64 of Jeremy Davis is coming into play.
Eric Smith versus Jeremy Allen for that 16th position. Looks like that's going to go to Smith, or Allen rather. So Smith now back to the 17th spot. Here comes Boulos in the 01, Blackford in the 32. Also down to the inside, Casey Tucker up Chuck, along with Jeremy Davis in the 64.
Ooh, Blackford tried to squeeze in between Tucker and Jeremy Davis. Couldn't quite make it work. He'll have to now dive to the inside of the racetrack on Casey Tucker as they go down the front straightaway. He's going to try to work that inside groove once again as Brad Mahar dives to the inside of Jeremy Davis. Try to see if he can complete the pass to break inside the top 20.
So Mahar in the 34 machine continuing to press on here and trying to sort himself out as best he can. Done a nice job though coming out through to the 20s, though. He started 31st and is up to 20 seconds, so plus 11 for him. A solid night for the 34 given where he started tonight's race, but sort of rolls him back to a point that Nick Morse made on our broadcast over that yellow flag stretch right after lap 80. Track position is everything, and while in context gaining 11 spots where you started is great, you're still behind that 20th cutoff that you at least want to average to make sure that you know you're going to get a spot in the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing series. So Mahar would like to pick up just a few more spots to feel a little bit safer and more confident about tonight's race.
He's going to give it everything he got now, as he now dives to the inside of Brian Blackford, trying to use Casey Tucker as a bit of a pick to keep Blackford up on the top side of the racetrack so he can work that bottom groove now. As they go back into turn 1, he will be able to clear Brian Blackford and now work on Casey Tucker as the 7 of Ryan Lowe coming into play. He had some incidents early on, has now worked his way up near the top 20.
Ryan Lowe sitting in 22nd and part of this incredibly entertaining group, and at the front of it, it's now Braden Boulos who has managed to clear Brandon Cattell and Eric Smith in that 01. Now looking to get after Jeremy Allen in the 08 machine.
Braden Boulos doing a great job. Now worked his way up inside the top, almost inside the top 15, outside looking in. Tries to take a peek to the inside of Jeremy Allen as they come across the line, but won't make it work this time. Down into turn 1 they will go. Brandon Catelli is now going to be looking to the outside now as they come off of turn 2.
Cattell raced with Smith, and Casey Tucker, I think, really checked up there by Brad Mahar last time by. I thought I saw that number 28 machine wiggle just a bit as if he had gotten into the back of the 34, but in either case, they continue on their way. As Braden Boulos now has found a nose underneath the 08 machine, and Boulos has got some speed, it looks like, especially as this track has cooled down. The longer this race goes on, the faster that 01 car seems to be.
Seems like Bullis has a car set up for the long run, which seems to be working out for him now as he tries to look to the inside to get by Jeremy Allen. Down into turn 1 they will go as Brandon Cattell looks on and watches the two battle out, and Boulos will slide up in front of Jeremy Allen down the back straightaway.
So Boulos now clear and up into the 15th position. Ethan Lane is next, and I think Lane's been the beneficiary of all this battling. He's managed to get this group by about a second, but if Boulos has that pace, I think we'll be okay as one car goes sideways. Brian Blackford, Casey Tucker into the outside wall to bring out the yellow flag again at Richmond, and there was contact. I couldn't quite tell who from. We'll see it on the replay in just a moment, but Blackford and Tucker and company all sideways here to bring out the yellow flag on that 138, and it was the 7 machine of Ryan Lowe who got into Blackford, who then slid up the track and clipped Tucker, and there wasn't much that either one of the 28 or the 32 could do. Looks like everybody else, save for Will Cooley, managed to get out of that one okay. Cooley with a significant amount of damage to that right side of the 00 car.
Unfortunate indeed for those drivers. They were having such a great run, such a great battle for them, and unfortunately for Tucker and Blackford, that is going to be a tough recovery for them as we are closing in to about 40 laps, 60 laps to go here.
60 laps here as they begin lap 140 of 200, and everybody will come down pit road for service. That's on the lead lap. Cody Bias and Colin Keister leading this group down into pit road. Doesn't look like there are any sort of pit road issues so far as getting in the box for any of our top competitors, so should be a relatively similar order if they come out back onto the racetrack in, but we'll see if there are any minor shuffles amongst this group. Alfala with a good stop, nearly got it, but couldn't quite beat Colin Keister to the point. So it is Bias, then Keister, then Alfala, then Bolin, then McCallum. I think Therese might have gained a spot on Nathan Lyon, and Chris Scherver and Justin Bolton and Michael Guest, and I suspect that could be your top 10 when we go back green flag racing, and some of the lap bound cars now come down pit road for service, led by
Got out like I can't.
As Cody Bias will resume control of this race and bring everybody around and get everyone sorted. Gary Weaver, we turn to you one more time here. 60 laps to go. Fuel mileage is largely out of the question now, given that you don't really have to worry about it all that much over a 60 lap run. You can usually make it home. It should be more about tire wear and tire management from this point on, and maybe watching where the cautions fall as well. We saw a few of them after that green flag run of 80 laps. Do you think we're going to see another rash of them after this restart?
I don't know. I mean, as far as fuel goes, like you mentioned, yeah, they're definitely good. They made it about 80 or so laps on the very first run, so they have for sure more than enough to make it to the end. As far as restarts go, well, turn 2 has been the main problem corner. We haven't really seen anything out of turn 4, but I've been looking just a few laps before this caution came out. There was a lot of drivers that just kept occasionally scraping the wall a little bit, and off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. So that's going to be something to watch out for. But as well as really the maybe even the high line on the exit, we've seen maybe 2 or 3 people at least on the restart twice in a row get loose on that restart coming off of turn 2 on the outside lane. So tire wear, in a sense, considering that these tires are fresh and you're starting on the outside off of turn number 2, well, that's definitely going to have to be something to keep an eye on and definitely manage as best as possible. But since they made the first 80 laps, I really don't think they'd really run into any major issues aside from the restart here.
And is it worth noting that it's about a 20 lap average between runs here? Do you think we'll be able to hit that, or is it going to be a little bit crazier in this final 50 laps and change?
No, it depends. We're just got to see. I mean, with a few drivers, again, like Gorlinski and Bryant, they've been riding mainly in the back half of the field. So as for drivers that really haven't been up front as much, I'm pretty sure we might be seeing a few more start to come up front a little bit more as the race progresses on here down to the night.
as we wait for the restart to come. Bias, Keister, Alfala, Bolin, McCollum, Tires, Lyons, Shiver, and Guest Bolton. The top 10. And Keister did the same thing that Bolin tried to do and get down to the inside. I don't think he can. Alfala got a really good restart on the inside, so he could go side by side with Keister, but then got a little bit tight in the center of the corner, and Keister, I think, should be able to clear coming into 3. So it'll be Alfala and Bolin side by side. Big move there to the inside from Santiago Tires to get down to the inside of Alex McCollum and try and take away that 5th position.
That was a big move by Santiago as they now go into turn 1 side by side. It's a caution is out once again.
Yellow flag out here, and a lot of cars spinning on the back straightaway. Ryan Schoenberg involved in this one, along with the 95 machine of Jesse Spores, Brandon Cattell. I think might be where this one started as we wait to see what happened. Looks like one car got loose alongside of it. Ryan Lowe bounced off of Corey Carpet, and that's what set this off. Those two made contact. Cattell was just swept up, had nowhere to go, ended up spinning to the inside. Ryan Schoenberg was trying as best he could to avoid the 7 machine. Didn't really have anywhere to go. David Shutt ran into the 7 as well, and then Jesse Spores was right there too. And everybody else, I think, checked up and was able to make it away. But before we even get going, another yellow flag to slow everything up here at Richmond.
Well, it seems like that's going to be our trend here for tonight. We'll have 2 nice long runs, and then we'll have a couple of short cautions, and we'll hopefully maybe have one good final push to the checkered flag here.
One last big push to try and sort out this race and see who is going to jump out into victory lane and maybe into the points lead as well, given that John Gorlinski hasn't had the greatest of nights. He's running in the 23rd spot as it stands, but we'll see if anybody else decides to shuffle things around. Also of note, some of these drivers a little bit further back: Brandon Cattell, Casey Tucker, Schoenberg, Blackford, Lowe, Schwartz, Sheehan. So Benefield, Nelson, Hill, some of the drivers who have been swept up in some of these incidents tonight, all coming down pit road for service. But everybody from Bob Bryant on up, that'd be 26th, all staying out, just ready to knock out a few caution laps and get back to the restart.
And with this caution, that'll move Matthew right up into getting a lap back here at Richmond. So he will win the lucky dog here as we are still waiting on the caution to come to an end.
That'll help Matthew right out. Well, maybe help him out a little bit. We'll see how things sort themselves out when we get back to it here. But still a long way to go for him. But if you're Cody Bias, you have to be in love with the way this is panning out and maybe helping him just a bit. Although I am very curious to see what Keister and Alfala can do as the sun begins to set. Track temps have dropped a good bit, 6 degrees, now down to 86 degrees Fahrenheit as the sun has set behind the horizon in turn 3. That's where a lot of this heat was coming from on the racetrack, but there is no sunlight directly hitting the track in 3 and 4, and I think as we get all the way around the racetrack and get lined up for the restart, we might be just about under the shade entirely over on that side of the racetrack, 1 and 2, and everything on that end of the circuit still getting some sunlight, but it's beginning to cool off a little bit here, and should make for a little bit grippier racetrack, might help people who have been struggling with tight race cars over the course of this event.
By the seams of things, but looking at the track right now, it's only the back straightaway and the exit of turn 2 that are still in sunlight right now, but probably giving it a few more minutes or so, the track will be in complete shade, and that'll drop the temperature even more so. So these cars are going to get a lot more faster, a lot more speed will come out, a lot more grip for these cars. So it's going to be an interesting thing that these drivers will have to figure out and handle in case we have more cautions late in the going.
So we're going to get the 1 to go here momentarily. Lights are off. So Bias, Keister, Alfala, Bolin, McCollum, Tires, Lyon, Sherburne, Guest, Bolton, your top 10. Restarting coming lap 151 of 200. So down in the final 50 laps of tonight's race at Richmond Raceway. The NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Round 3 of 7. knock out our lone short track of the season before we get set for next week, which will be a little bit longer. Not too much, though. Dover is the next stop on the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series calendar. But we'll worry about Dover once we figure out how the rest of this race pans out. As Bias gets another good restart to bring us back to green flag racing. And Geister's going to go all the way down to the bottom to block Ray Alfala and make sure that he gets second outright quickly. So the 24, the 25, then the 2 of Alfala side by side with Graham Boland. That's for the 3rd position. And then Alex McCollum and Santiago Chivas racing side by side with a little bit of contact between those two for the 5th spot.
Graham Boland doing the best that he can to hold on in the outside lane with Ray Alfala trying to work on the inside. Colin Keister, though, has got up to the back bumper of Cody Bias once again as he gets a little loose off of turn 2. He'll be nose to tail as they dive into turn 3.
As everybody continues to bounce around, they're still 2x2 a good way through this racetrack. And I think of note, just to expand on that sun point a little bit, it's only that stretch from the start-finish line to about midway through 1 and 2, where there's still sunlight on the racetrack. Everywhere else is still in shade, and I have to believe that's helping Colin Keister because he just put a nose to the inside of Cody Bias, and it's the first real challenge that Bias has seen all night long in this race as he goes all the way down to the bottom to try and clear the lap machine, the 00 of Will Cooley, who will run up top, and it could make things interesting for some of the other drivers who are still side by side as they try and work their way around. The 00 will stay high to avoid everyone, but again, if you're racing side by side and he slides back to about 20th or so, you might have no choice but to go 3 wide. That could cause some incidents. We've seen stuff like that happen in the past. Something we'll watch for as Cooley continues to slide back through the field.
Cooley doing the best that he can to avoid letting these lead lap cars go by as quickly and as painlessly as possible as he's down on the outside 3 wide with Jeremy Allen along with that 26 of Ethan Lane as they go down the front straightaway. And James, the track is now in complete shade, no sunlight whatsoever on the track, so we are phasing into a new phase here at the track.
The track temp is up a degree from what it was about 5 minutes ago to 87, but I have to believe that's going to change as we progress through the final maybe 15, 20 minutes of this race under green flag conditions. As we look towards the O2 machine, Chris Oberlin side by side with Chris Shearburn. The Chris's battling for the 9th and 10th spots on this racetrack. Michael Guest also in there as well. And then you've got Jeremy Allen, Ethan Lane, Adam Gill, and Ashton Crowner and company right behind this group.
It's the 2 Chris's that are going to go side by side as they go into turn 1 and 2, while we have Ethan Lane, Adam Gillen, along with also the 26 car is going to do battle once again, and the 27 as well, as the caution is out once again.
Yellow flag out here at Richmond one more time as Logan Kress is the driver in trouble. And Kress, I think he just got loose in the middle of the corner. Might have been helped a little bit from Michael Ridley, but Kress slides it around, goes sideways, and somehow did not get hit, amazingly enough.
Yeah, great save right there, and is able to continue on, but it looks like no major damage, so he will continue on and try to see if he can gain some position before this race is over.
20 laps here. Who comes down pit road? Ray Alfala will, and will get dumped by a few people here. So Alfala, the first one to come in, and he'll have fresh tires, but Bias and Keister, Bolin, and Lyon all stayed out, as did McCallum, as did Zierend, as did Guest, Allen, and Crowder. So now we finally have some divergent tire strategies and 2 different schools of thoughts to work with. Eric Smith stayed out. Brad Mahar stayed out. Kane Cook stayed out. Brandon Cattell stayed out. Adam Benefield stayed out. Michael Guerrilla and David Shutt also stayed out. But Cattell, Benefield, Guerrilla, and Shutt all on 7-lap younger tires than the rest of this group. So Chris Shearburn also gaining a spot on Alfala. Shearburn decided to take 2 tires. It's supposed to Alfala, who took 4. And Alfala went all the way back in that exchange from, 3rd on the racetrack? Now currently scored in 18th.
It's going to be a tall order for Alfala to try to work his way back up through the field as we're under 50 laps to go, but it can be doable for him with those fresh tires as he's going to try to work his way up the field. But some of these drivers are doing a little bit of strategy, doing the exact opposite. As Alfala saw, the race leader did not come down pit road, so he decided to play a little strategy and do the exact opposite, which is a common strategy for some drivers in racing here. And it looks like it could pay out for Alfala, but it could also definitely pay out for Cody Bias.
So if you're Ray Alfala or Chris Sherburne, Justin Bolton, Chris Overland in this position, you want green flag racing the rest of the way. You don't want any more yellow flags. You want these drivers to end up on, maybe, what about 60, 70 lap old tires when we get to the end of this race. The advantages really begin to show themselves as these green flag runs progress. And the difference between speed and 50 and 70 lap old tires at Richmond tends to be far greater than the difference between brand new tires and 20 lap old tires. So just keep that in mind, that with the top 12-ish, we'll say, back to Kane Cook, all of those drivers have 20 lap older tires than everybody from Ray Alfala on back as we wait for the pace car to sort things out. So while the lights are off on the pace car, let's go ahead and make sure you're sorted out back at home on who's got what sort of tire strategy. Cody Bias, Colin Keister, Graham Boland, Nathan Lyon, Alex McCollum, Santiago Tires, Michael Guest, Jeremy Allen, Ashton Crowder, Eric Smith, Brad Mahar, Kane Cook. All those drivers currently on 22 or 23 lap old tires. They pitted on the caution before this. You've got Adam Benefield, Michael Cariglia, and David Schutz, who are all on 16 or 17 lap old tires. So 7 laps younger than everybody else in that top 12. Worth noting the difference. Then Chris Sherburne, who's in 16th on 2 tires. The other 2-tire drivers in this group, Bob Bryant and Jeremy Davis. And then 17th on back, Ray Alfala, Justin Bolton, Chris Overland, Bob Bryant, Ethan Lane, Jeremy Davis, Adam Golan, Braden Poulos, Corey Carpenter, Nicholas Shelton, John Gorlinski, Brian Blackford, Jesse Schwartz, Logan Kress. That's your top 30. All of those drivers on fresh rubber. So there's your split. We'll see who pays off and who ends up the more successful of the two. As Bias jumps away to the front, Boland should get second pretty easily over Colin Keister. Alex McCollum now sitting on the inside trying to follow the hole that Boland's made to try and take away the third spot for the 25.
Great fight between him and Colin Keister. Graham Boland holding on the inside lane, is able to clear Colin Keister as they come down the front straightaway, with Alex McCullum looking on in 4th position. Nathan Lyon, though, having a little bit of trouble with Michael Guest, who's on his inside as they go to turn 1 and 2. Guest is going to try as the caution comes out once again.
Caution comes out once again. It, I believe, is going to be Ethan Lane who got caught up in this, along with the 0-1 of Braden Boulos. So Lane had a little bit of contact from Bob Bryant. Justin Bolton was also caught up in this a little bit. And then Boulos ends up in trouble and slams into the side of the 26th. Logan Kress also spinning sideways. But you look at the names involved in that, Boulos and Lane, all drivers who came down pit road for service on this yellow flag, and that strategy has backfired horribly for both of them.
It is unfortunate for these drivers, but that's the penalty you might have to face when pitting, especially when the rest of the field decides not to. You end up towards the back half of the field where there will be possibility of major mistakes and incidents happening back there, and they ended up paying the price for it.
Also of note, Justin Bolton was involved in that incident. He was another one of the drivers who came down pit road for service. And if you're curious to know where 4-time is, he's actually in the 14th position. So picked up a few spots there on that run, but he needs more green flag laps. More than anything else, he needs green flag laps in order to have a chance to get back to the front of this field.
Yeah, he's 4 away from breaking inside the top 10, but if he keeps running these start and stop type of cautions, he will not have any shot of possibly getting back up to the front of the field to challenge Cody Bott.
Gary Weaver, while we've got a moment, let's turn back to you. You saw what happened on that last yellow flag and how it split the field on pit strategy. What's your take on the 2 different lines that we're working with, and what is your call? What would you have been trying to do if you're on top of the pit box for any one of these machines?
Honestly, looking back again at the roughly top 13, I think the only person in the top 13 right now is Adam Benefield on the least amount of tire wear in terms of laps. He's at 22 laps right now. Going to be 23 at the start-finish line. So whatever calls are being made there, definitely a pretty good idea. But for now, definitely we've chosen to stay out and not really risk pitting near the end of the race unless otherwise necessary, especially with these cautions that have kept popping up on the restarts. So at the moment, pretty good call for most of these drivers to really stay out and just not really risk any track position loss.
This is a case where you think we might see some more drivers down on pit road if we have a few more yellow flags to deal with, or do you think everybody's mostly done for pitting this evening?
Well, considering that the amount of laps by the end of the race at the moment, maybe about 60 or so laps total by the end. So that's going to be a really tough decision to make. Most of the laps right now are being run under caution, so wouldn't really be worthy of going to pit road as of yet. But if there is a late race caution, I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few drivers that will decide to go to pit road and maybe take at least 2 tires to try and get at least some type of extra grip back.
At least attempt to get some sort of grip back as we wait for the pace car to come back around, and we suspect lights should go off this time, so we should be looking at another restart here in the next few laps. And we said a big thank you to Gary Weaver for a little bit of his insight as the lights have gone off. So we'll get back to racing on lap 171 of 200. It'll be Bias, Bolin, Keister, McCollum, Guest, Lyon, Tevez, Crowder, Allen, Mahar, your top 10 in this race. Friendly reminder, since we've had a lot of yellow flags and it may come into play, 3 opportunities for a green one checker finish if we need them. We've not needed them yet in 2019 in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Wonder if that might change with this race depending on how things pan out. The pace car will turn down onto pit road. Cody Bias will lead Graham Boland to the start. Can the 41 get behind that 24 machine? He cannot. I think Bias either went a little bit later in the box or something, just got caught a little bit off guard by everybody else and wasn't quite as quick out of the gates as he would have wanted to be, because now Boland is up on the top side with momentum and may well take the lead away from Cody Bias. It'll be the first lap that Boland has led. The line might be the first lap that Bias hasn't led this evening under the green, as Boland now racing away on the top side. And look at how the lights have come on. The track has changed. Track temps have dropped down to 85, so still maintaining a lot of heat in this track. But Graham Boland now to the top side, and Boland takes away the race lead and Bias for the first time all night. Now we'll have to figure out how to navigate this from P2.
And that's going to be difficult for him because he has to try and figure out a way now that he's behind some dirty air. He no longer has that cleaner to help him, give him that slight advantage now. He will dive to the bottom of the racetrack to get by Graham Boland, but can't quite make it work. He also has to defend to keep Colin Keister behind him as they come across the line.
One car sideways way in the back of this field. Couldn't quite tell who it was. Think it might have been the 81 machine of Adam Benefield who got sent up into the fence. No yellow flag, though. Meanwhile, Chris Overland and Ray Alfalla trying to charge through this field. They're into 10th and 11th at the moment and coming. And the more this goes green, the better off those two are going to be. But will they have enough time to get back to the front as Overland's sort of creating the holes and Alfalla's just following suit at this time? I wonder how long it'll be until that changes, too.
It's going to be interesting to see. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you don't go anywhere. This is going to be a battle here pretty soon as we see Alfalla try to work his way back up to the lead. Cody Bias trying to get back into lead, and Graham Boland trying to hold off one of the dominant cars here tonight as Colin Keister sits on in the 3rd position as the top 3 once again start to pull away. Cody Bias, though, takes a look to the inside to turns 3 and 4 to get through Graham Boland, but that will not work this time. Boland still holds the lead.
Boland still in control of this race. Bias had the best car by far with the sunlight on the racetrack, but now that the lights have started to come on, Graham Boland has started to turn the wick up on that 41 machine, and all of a sudden he's found an extra gear to get ahead of this field. And is starting to take control of that middle lane too, just making sure that he takes away the line of the 24 machine, especially on corner exit, so Bias can't get a run to get alongside the 41 car.
0-2 of Chris Overland is going to work his way up through the field. He's now battling with Nathan Lyon as he gets a little bit of a push from Ray Alfala as they go into turn 3 and 4. There we see Overland on the inside of the 0-2, Lyon on the outside in that 47. Behind them, you have the 18 of Santiago Tierres and the 2 of Ray Alfala. Alfala's going to try to see if he can get by his teammate of Santiago as they come off of turn 2, but Santiago's still going to power on the outside as Alfala gets a little bit loose down the back straightaway.
This is about where I think the battles would start getting a little bit more difficult for these drivers on fresh tires, but there goes Overland around Lyon. So Overland up to 6th, and we'll see what kind of speed he's got now that he's clear of this battle, as Alfala will work alongside the 47 machine. These are the first 2 drivers who came in to pit 20 laps ago, so they've got 20 lap fresher tires than everyone else in the top 5, and they just need a little bit more breathing room. Last time by, Overland put down a 21.1 compared to 21 2s and 3s everywhere else. So it's about a 10th a lap that looks like Overland and Alfala have on the rest of this group. And they've got about 1.5 seconds to make up. So the time's certainly there, but you also have to remember there are 4 cars in between Overland and your race leader, Graham Boland, that he'll have to navigate in about 20-ish laps, and not a lot of time to get that final bit of passing done, as dead zone drivers have got control of 1st, 3rd, and 5th at the moment. If you are curious, as Bias looks to the inside of Boland again.
Bias trying everything. He knows he has this race in the bag as he's trying his best to get to the inside of Graham Boland as the caution once again comes out.
Caution out. John Gorlinski, the one in trouble this time. And Gorlinski up into the fence. Your Daytona winner from 2 weeks ago into trouble here. He got some help from the 56 of Timmy Hill going into the corner. And Gorlinski was trying to get underneath Kane Cook in the 55 machine, and just ran out of space there. Hill was there, and Gorlinski, not really much room he had to work with, because Nicholas Shelton ended up in trouble. Timmy Hill slid up. I don't know if yes, Hill did get into Shelton just a little bit. That's actually how Shelton got into the fence, was contact with him. So those 3 involved in an incident on lap 183 to bring us under the yellow flag again.
Well, that just means we rack them up and try again here, and this gives the chance for our drivers who have come down to pit for tires earlier on, Chris Overland, Ray Alfala, a chance to get a little bit closer to our race leaders. And also, let's see what Graham Boland can do on the race restart. Can he get a better run compared to Cody Bias?
Brad Bahar is the first one to come into pit road for service from 17th, and that triggers everybody from about that spot on back. So you think that Corey Carpenter, Brandon Cachell, Adam Gill, and Jeremy Allen, Bob Bryant could be in a little bit of trouble here with the older tires compared to the rest of that group that came in, which in fairness I like. If you're about 15th, 16th on back, you might as well. You're not terribly far ahead of anybody else, and certainly you don't have the outright pace to try and do something, so why not roll the dice and try and get a few more spots right at the end of this, especially since there are the green-white checkers to work with too, if they're necessary.
I say it's a great call that those drivers on back had decided to make. It helps them in the long run possibly to get inside the top 15, to get inside the top 10. Shoot, even maybe to get inside the top 20 for some of those drivers who've been in the back of the pack, such as Timmy Hill, who's been running around the 30th to outside top 25 for a majority of this race. So a great strategy call for him.
As we continue to ride at that very, very comfortable 45 miles an hour around Richmond Raceway, we'll wait to see how long it'll take to get everyone reorganized and shuffled and set together, but the restart should come with just over 10 laps to go at Richmond. It will be gangbuster style racing, I think, at minimum. Absolutely no reason to hold back. You've only got 10 laps to make something happen, and if you're Ray Alfala and Chris Overland, the 2 major beneficiaries of the tire strategy, those 2 have managed to climb up through the field to get to 6th and 7th. Overland in particular is a huge beneficiary of this. He had been running a little bit for the back of the top 6th, 7th, 8th ballpark than Alfala had been. Alfala's been consistently top 5 on the same tire strategy as everybody else for a good chunk of this evening. So solid benefits for Overland. Alfala has made most of that ground back up, but Now will be the time to try and shuffle through this field and see if you can snatch away a few more spots and run away with this race outright. So the lights are still on the pace car, and I suspect that means the restart will come on lap 189 of 200.
Talk about a shootout that's going to happen. 11 laps to go when we take the green flag here. And if we don't have any more cautions, no green flag, white checkered flag attempts. So it's going to be an interesting race for these last 11 laps as the pace car lights come on.
12 to go, actually. When they hit the stripe and come back to green flag racing, Boland and Bias, Keister, McCollum, Guest, Overland, Alfala, Lyon, Tires, Eric Smith, your top 10. Remember, Overland and Alfala, the only two in the top 10 who came in some 20 laps ago. Shearburn is the third of those drivers, but he currently sits in the 12th position. But the 0-2 and the 2, the ones you want to watch on the fresh tires, everyone else around them has 20 lap older tires that they'll have to try and fend off Alfala and Overland with as they go back to green flag racing. And Bias did not get going on the outside well at all. Really struggled to go on the restart. That helps out Ray Alfala, who's going to go to the inside of Chris Overland to make it 3 wide through 1 and 2 to try and gain the spot as Alex McCollum gets forced to the high side. They'll continue on. Yellow flag, though, out. Big wreck on the back straightaway.
Great runs for those drivers right there as they do their best, especially for Ray Alfala and Chris Overland to get that big jump they need to work their way up. But a big loss for Cody Bias right there as he could not get a good run on that outside lane.
He was saved there. Ethan Lane was the one who ended up in trouble. Got a little bit of help from Jesse Schwartz in the 95. Looks like he got drilled in the side by Ryan Lowe in the 7, who's been near the center of a lot of yellow flags tonight. Lane just had nowhere to go. Tough racing the back of the field as everyone tries to gain positions, but this is the last thing you wanted to see if you're either one of Alfala or Overland.
With that, that'll now move Cody Bias down to third into the inside lane behind Graham Boland, and then Colin Keister will have to try to see what he can do on that outside group.
So Keister to the outside now to try and see if he can do anything with Boland. And then how about Michael Guest, too, coming up in all of this madness and somehow up into 4th after running around 10th for a good chunk of tonight's race. Very, very solid second half of this race from the 54, especially if he can keep that up. Light still on the pace car. Restart then probably to come on lap 194 within 10, almost 5 laps to go if we don't get a green, white checker finish, Taylor Burris. But with the way they've been racing, I'll openly admit I'd be very surprised if we don't have at least one green, white checker.
I could not agree with you more on that, James. I wouldn't be shocked if we do not end up with at least one green, white checkered attempt here, as these drivers have been definitely showing a little bit of over-aggression, trying to see if they can work their way through when making those mistakes. So we'll see what happens here as we're getting closer to the end and getting ready to go back under green flag conditions.
Waiting for lights. Lights will stay on one more lap here. Even more detrimental to Chris Overland and Ray Alfala. The restart not to come until lap 195 of 200. So 6 laps to go when we get the green flag, if that holds. And I think it also makes an interesting point here, because I know there'll be a lot of drivers towards the back of the field that'll try and go all over the place and try and get spots. But is it weird to think about the idea of 6 laps being a long time to try and make sure that you don't run into anyone, especially knowing that if you get into someone, you bring out more yellow flags, you take away the actual race laps and the time that you need to get back up to the front if you're not in control of this, Taylor Burris, and you end up hurting yourself more than you would think.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. So that's where the patience comes in. Even though we're towards the end of the race and points and positions matter for these drivers, you also know that as the laps continue winding down and you make those mistakes, you make that contact, you end up causing a caution or someone spins out. That means that's less time for you to try and getting back up towards the position you would like to try to grab in order to help you in your points run.
So now might be the time to get up on the gas pedal. Now might be the time to be ready for a little bit of excitement as we really are in the business end of this race. Boland's got control of this. Keister's got everyone on the top side going. He got a much better restart as Bias spun the tires again as we work our way through lap 195 of 200 inside. The final 6 laps as Bias gets moved. Bias got moved. Overland shot it to the top side. No yellow flag yet. Now Bias is going to go around and the yellow flag will come out. And Cody Bias, who had the best car throughout the first 150 laps of this race, all of a sudden is sideways on the back straightaway and all of a sudden runs into a huge amount of trouble. Eric Smith was the one who finally got into him to set him around, but Adam Gillen caught some damage. Brian Blackford ran into him. Jesse Schwartz had nowhere to go. And Bias, who started P1 in this race, now all the way back to 37th. 37th after starting first. I can't even imagine what's going on in his head at this point. Frustration, anger, all the above. And then some, I would think.
Could not agree with you more. I would hate to be listening into the team radio of Cody Bias right now. The anger, the frustration that he could be facing, knowing he had a shot of possibly winning this race and possibly even having a good shot of securing a chance to come back into the eNASCAR iRacing series this coming year in 2020. Now up in smokes as now he is going to be struggling right now since he is in that bubble spot. So this is detrimental for him right here.
It was the kind of race that he needed to have up through about lap 180 or so, and then he got passed by Graham Boland on that last restart before this, and then on this one ends up in the wall, around sideways. And I think the worst part for Bias is that since we've had so few retirements, it's going to be a tremendous hit in the points, and certainly not the finish that Bias deserves. I think that we could say without question, as we may bump into, and I think we will be bumping into the first green-white checker here. So no more than 2 lap stints from this point to the rest of the way out in order to find out who will win tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Series event at Richmond.
All I got to say is that was just surprising and unexpected right there. But we'll see what happens, see what they can do, and Graham Boland might have a good shot.
Boland, I think, just has to hit the restarts, which, in fairness, have not been a problem for most of these leaders all night long. And I think in this case, you also have to spare a thought for Ray Alfalla and Chris Overland, especially, too, who was sent up wide along with Cody Bias. Overland has slid back to the 9th spot, so certainly not near as bad as it could have been, but not quite what it should have been for that O2 machine. And it ultimately looks like, just looking at the strategies here, that staying out was in fact probably the right decision to make, unless we see something crazy happen at the front of this field. I won't rule it out, but Alfalla's not gotten back up to where he was. He's close, but he's not quite where he was before he pitted. Overland has dropped back a little bit. Shearburn is sitting in 10th. They're all about maybe 2 to 3 spots back of where they were before we had that yellow that split the pit strategy. So still a little bit of racing left to go to change that, but right now, those drivers who stayed out look like they've made the right call. As the lights are off on the pace car again, the restart will officially come on lap 201 of 200. So, green-white checker attempt number 1 of 3 forthcoming. It's Boland, Keister, Guest, McCollum, Lyon, Alfalla, Sires, Crowder, Overland, Shearburn, your top 10. As the lights are on here at Richmond and Sunset Break Show at the capital of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we'll have 2 laps to find out who's going to win this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series event at Richmond. Bolin goes, spun the tires a little bit. Keister got a decent restart. Guest got an even better one. Lyon did a nice job getting down to the bottom. They're going to fan out 3 wide a little bit further back, around 10th or so. Bolin will control the inside lane. They'll continue to go as they make their way through 2, 3 wide, a little bit further back in the field. We'll wait to see if they come and get the white flag coming out of 4.
That's what Graham Bolin wants, just to see that white flag, knowing that he doesn't have to face another restart here. Comes across the line, white flag in the air. He is doing everything that he can to hold off Colin Keister.
Colin Keister will have one shot in turn 3 to try and make this happen as they bounce off each other. Recchi behind him. No yellow flag yet. Keister won't push it, and Graham Bolin should be safe as they go sideways and go wild behind them. Big wreck in 4 as they all spin out, and Graham Bolin is your winner in tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Series event at Richmond. And there were about 2 or 3 different incidents way further back in the field as everybody from about 10th to 15th ended up all over the place. And we'll go back to the replay here in just a moment to find out what happened. But Graham Bolin did what he needed to do on that last restart, made it happen, and gets his first win in the 2019 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series.
Looking back on that incident that happened, it looked like it was something that happened between Santiago Gutierrez and his teammate Ray Alfala. Ray and then made a little contact, causing Santiago to check up just a little bit, losing control, and just that pileup and that checkup going on cost everyone just wanting to go 3, 4 wide down into the corner. So unfortunate for Santiago to get involved. Started with inside the top 5, drops all the way back to 20th place.
There were 2 incidents on this last lap. That was the first one, and then you see the second one on your screens now where everybody just went sideways, and it looks like a super speedway wreck, a restrictor plate race wreck, because there were about 5, 6, 7 cars just all over the place trying to gain positions. And we'll see how that shakes out in the standings. I think that'll be the most interesting point to look at, but everybody all over the place here on the final lap of this 3rd race of 7 in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series at Richmond. At this point, we'll take a moment to turn to the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished, and it starts with Graham Bolin in the number 41 car, getting the victory over Colin Keister, who finishes P2. Michael Guest came home in the 3rd spot this evening. Nathan Lyon finished in 4th. Alex McCollum finishes right where he started in the 5th spot. 6th was the 2 of Ray Alfala. Chris Oberlin comes home in 7th after being involved in a lot of incidents in the final 2 or 3 laps or so. Justin Bolton finished in the 8th position. 9th went to Eric Smith, and Ashton Crowner comes home with a top 10.
Brandon Cattell will come home in the 11th position, followed by Adam Gilliland in 12th, with Michael Gariglia coming home in 13th. A big run tonight for Corey Carpenter. Started in 39th, went all the way to the 14th position with Chris Sherburne coming home in 15th. Another driver who gained a total of 20 spots, or 20 spots, was Kane Cook. He came home, started 36th, came home 16th, with Benjamin Nelson coming home in 17th. Logan Crest will come home in the 18th position, followed by Brad Mahar in 19th, and Santiago Gutierrez will come home in 20th.
21st went to John Gorlinski. Bob Bryant finished in 22nd. 23rd was Liam Brotherton, and Ethan Lane finished in 24th. Jeremy Davis finished in the 25th position. 26th went to Nicholas Shelton. Brian Blackford finished in 27th. 28th was Steve Sheehan. Cody Bias comes home 29th after that incident on the penultimate yellow of this race, and then Adam Benefield rounded out the top 30.
31st will go to Casey Tucker, followed by David Shutt in 32nd. Jimmy Hill will come home in the 33rd position with Brian Schoenberg in 34th. Ryan Lowe, another tough night for him. He'll come home in 35th with Jeremy Allen in 36th. Braden Bolus will come home in 37th with Jesse Schwartz 1 lap down in 38th. Matthew Wright, a tough night for him, 8 laps down in 39th. And Will Cooley will round out your 40-car field.
And there is your 40-car field rundown for tonight's NASCAR iRacing Pro Series event at Richmond Raceway. And at this point, time to bring in Graham Boylan.
Oh, sorry.
We could make that joke, right? But hey,
I didn't know I got moved in here.
No, we got you in quick because we have to talk to the guy who comes home and gets it done on the final few restarts, and it also gives us another joke to work with moving forward to Dover next week. But we'll get back to the serious part of this. Those final restarts, and especially the move to get around Cody Bias, take us through that first, since that set the tone for the last 20 laps of this race.
So my crew chief, Dustin, he told me to roll his right rear up to his door and just lift until he went, and then I slammed the gas right when he went, luckily, and then I just held his outside and luckily got around him. He was really fast long run though.
And plenty of speed on the long run for sure for Bias. And then the final few restarts, just with the pressure of having the lead, making sure you need to nail it to not run into trouble, especially after Cody not really nailing the final restart where he was the leader, helped set you up for the lead. How big was that in your mind as we came through the final bits and pieces of this race?
That was it was lucky because I had teammates around, so I could tell them, I could communicate like where I'm going, not exactly, but I can communicate some point of when I'm going. So it would help Cody just stay behind me a little.
Then there's that whole team thing, since Dead Zone may or may not have had a big night tonight, to say the least. First, second, third, fourth for Dead Zone. Can you speak to just how big that is for you and everybody at the team?
It's great because like me, Dustin, Houston, Nathan, Gariglia, we all worked really hard on the setup. Colin did really good in the race, and so did Nathan. He did amazing, and so did Guest, and it worked out really good.
Worked out very well, and we'll see if it works again to see if you can carry that momentum into Dover next week. Initial thoughts on running the Monster Mile in race 4 of 7 in this Pro Series?
It's going to be wild. You can't pass there that much. Hopefully we have a good setup there so we can just queue up front and stay there.
Well, Graham, as always, we'll give you the moment to say your thank you, send your shout outs, and let everyone know who makes it happen for you in the number 41 car.
Thank you, Round Graphics, for that beautiful Sparko machine, and Houston, Hammer, Dustin, and Nathan for building the setup, and Gariglia for all the laps he did. And I did some laps too, so it made all that happen, and then this turned out.
Well, Graham, congratulations on your victory from all of us at Podium Esports, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. We look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight in Dover.
All right, see you, man. Thank you.
Graham Bolden, P1 in tonight's race, and Nathan Lyon is next up here. We've got a hold of the number 47 driver, and he currently is got to be pretty pleased with that 4th place run, but Nathan is with Taylor Burris.
Here with Nathan Lyon, came home in 4th place after pretty much running in the top 5 over the majority of the night. Nathan, tell us about your race.
It was pretty good. We were able to control our own destiny there at the end, which was pretty nice. Dead Zone being 1 through 4, helping each other out on the restarts because they are pretty crazy at the end there. Once we got turned the car on that first pit stop, it was really good. It was really quick. We had really good short run pace, really good long run pace. We're just kind of able to control our destiny tonight.
Yeah, definitely were able to with that 1 through 4 finish. Now, as we go on to the next track at Dover, the Monster Mile, how confident do you feel to keep on that momentum with you with that strong run that you had here tonight at Richmond?
We've had really good cars the last 3 races, especially in qualifying as well. Dover's a pretty track position dependent track. So as long as we queue up front, we should be able to hold on, just like how we did to get a good top 5, hopefully top 10, maybe even a win.
All right. We look forward to seeing you at Dover at the next round. But before we let you go, who helped you from week to week that you got to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely Houston and Dustin for all their hard work at Dead Zone, making a rocket ship tonight. PC Solutions for being on the car for this Pro Series. That was really awesome for them to jump on. Route Graphics for painting the awesome car. It's definitely the best looking in the field, that's for sure. And you guys for putting on the broadcast.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, and we will see you at the next round at Dover.
Nathan Lyon comes home P4. We'll wait to see if we get a hold of a few more drivers in tonight's race and a few more of our top 5. But for now, 2 points of note that I think have to be highlighted more than anything else. Now that we leave Richmond, guess who's your new points leader, Taylor Burris?
I'll take a wild guess and say, is it Graham Bolin?
Well, most people would say Graham Bolin. I think after tonight, he'd say Graham Boylan. we're definitely not going to let him live that down.
Oh, that's got mileage on it.
Right. He won't care though if he's the points leader in the Pro Series, especially after John Gorlinski came home 21st. But Bowling, new points leader. Gorlinski, incidentally, is 11 points back of Boylan, so not terribly far, but still, certainly one of those things where you're not going to complain about jumping out ahead of everybody else and taking care of business when you need to. As I suppose we'll go ahead and turn our attention to Taylor Burris one more time for the likes of Taylor Burris's final thoughts.
Well, tonight's race showed that even though you may have the best car on all night long, one mistake could cost you big time. We saw that here tonight with Cody Bias, who had just made that one mistake that prevented him from taking home the checker flag. And yet we saw another driver who was showing consistency and patience all night and able to steal one away from Cody Bias. We also saw some trouble for some of our points leaders in the front, such as John Gorlinski and Bob Bryant struggled all night long. Can they recover when we go to the Monster Mile in next week?
So a lot of drivers sneak up and gain some spots at the end of this race, and that's the big point I come away with at Richmond. Obviously, everybody within the top five all had strong nights, all very deserving of those runs. Although, special call to Michael Guest, I think, for driving up the way he did. He was as far back as 13th, 14th in this race at one point. So to come away with a top three finish has to be big for the number 54 machine. But some of these drivers a little bit further back who escaped all the madness. Eric Smith barely spent any time in the top 10, save for the end of the night. Got ninth. Same can be said about Ashton Crowder, who finished 10th. Brandon Kitchell was about 15th for most of the evening, comes home 11th. And there are a lot of names that, as you look through the top 20, gained a lot of positions in that final lap at the end, and some drivers who lost some spots too. Santiago Gutierrez, John Gorlinski, Cody Bias in particular, with the awful ending to his race. How will those points affect these drivers? I almost wonder if you're going to end up with a situation where you end up with some lost points and you almost have to take this as a mulligan like you would a restrictor plate track if you end up getting caught up with the big one, which is not something you want to have to worry about this early on in the season. But if you're stuck in that spot, you just sort of have to kick on from here and see what you can do at Dover next week, which is where we'll be for round 4 of 7 of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. And we'll be here on all of these channels: iRacing's Facebook page, the iRacing Esports Network, the iRacing Twitch channel. Also, we'll be hosted on the Podium Esports Twitch channel as well. So if you want to catch us next week, come back November 13th, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time for round 4 of 7 on the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Dover. Before that, 2 more races to tell you about. First up, Podium Esports will have the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from the Classic Layout at Watkins Glen on the iRacing Esports Network this Friday night, November 8th, 9:15 p.m. Eastern start time for that one. And then Sunday night, over on the Podium Esports Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, our regular home. You can find the Stock Car Challenge Series powered by iRacing iFlag from Monza without the first chicane, so plenty of speed to be carried around that road course with these Class A stock cars, the pinnacle of oval racing here on the service, taking to some of the best road courses around the world. And that will be this upcoming Sunday night, November 10th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Your start time for that before we get back at it in Dover. That will conclude tonight's broadcast of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series from Richmond Raceway. So, for DJ Lyon, Gary Sexton, for John Theodore at Podium Esports, for tonight's producer, Cisco Scaramuza, and for my partners in the booth, Taylor Burris and Mr. Gary Weaver, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Look forward to seeing you next week from Dover.